Grandpa's secret in the basement. During my second year of college, spring break took an unexpected turn. A call from my uncle Andrew revealed that Grandpa's health had declined severely, and he needed assistance at his secluded home. Loneliness had been my companion since Mom's passing a year prior, so I agreed, seeking connection amidst the isolation. Andrew's house, nestled deep in the countryside, exuded an air of timelessness. The scent of old books mingled with a faint mustiness, and the dim lighting revealed aged wallpaper and a modest chandelier. Modern furniture attempted to mask the home's antiquity, but couldn't conceal its storied past. The living room felt like a relic, with a peeling couch, a threadbare rug, and shelves filled with dust-laden books. It was as if time had paused, the room holding on to memories long since faded. Andrew and I exchanged uneasy small talk, the weight of unspoken concerns hanging heavily between us. Andrew's demeanor shifted when discussing Grandpa. His eyes clouded with worry, and his voice lowered as he mentioned Grandpa's insistence on staying in the basement, refusing to come upstairs. The basement had always been off limits, a place shrouded in mystery and unease. Curiosity gnawed at me, but the basement door remained closed, a silent sentinel guarding its secrets. Andrew advised against disturbing Grandpa, attributing his behavior to the illness. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, that the basement held more than just an ailing old man. Nights were restless. The creaks and groans of the old house seemed amplified in the darkness. I often found myself staring at the ceiling, thoughts drifting to the basement and the enigma it concealed. Sleep came fitfully, if at all. One night, driven by an insatiable need to know, I ventured into the basement. The wooden stairs protested under my weight, each creak echoing like a warning. The air grew colder with each step, and an oppressive silence enveloped me. The basement was a chamber of horrors. Strange symbols adorned the walls, and an altar stood at the center, covered in dark stains. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and an overwhelming sense of dread settled over me. In the dim light, I saw Grandpa, frail and gaunt, muttering in a language I couldn't comprehend. His eyes, once filled with warmth, were now hollow and distant. He didn't acknowledge my presence, wholly absorbed in his ritual. As I stood frozen, a dark, faceless entity emerged from the shadows behind Grandpa. It loomed over him, its presence suffocating and malevolent. Terror rooted me in place as the entity seemed to merge with Grandpa, enveloping him in darkness. Panic overtook me, and I fled up the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest. As I reached the top, I glanced back to see the basement door closing on its own, sealing the darkness within. I collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath. The horrifying image of Grandpa and the entity burned into my mind. The following morning, the house seemed unchanged, as if the nightmarish events had been a figment of my imagination. Andrew and I sat in tense silence, the unspoken truth hanging heavily between us. I knew then that some secrets were meant to remain buried, and the basement door was best left unopened. The Haunting of Hope Valley. Mr. Graham Milner was not a man easily shaken. In the rigid world of 1960s education, he was a force of discipline, stern, unyielding, and deeply respected. But even the strongest of men can encounter things that defy explanation. And for Mr. Milner, that encounter came one cold February night in Hope Valley. Hope Valley was a place of beauty. Rolling green hills, ancient stone cottages, and endless mist that clung to the land like a forgotten secret. The students were eager for adventure. Mr. Milner, however, was preoccupied. Something about their destination gnawed at the edges of his mind, though he couldn't place why. The hotel was an old Victorian manor turned into an inn, its walls heavy with history. The wooden floors groaned underfoot, and the air smelled of aged paper and damp stone. The staff greeted them politely, but something in their eyes suggested an unspoken warning. Milner studies the grand staircase, a strange unease settling in his gut. Mr. Milner was assigned room 206. The moment he stepped inside, the air changed, thicker, colder. The room was simple, an antique wooden bed, heavy drapes over the window, and a wardrobe that smelled of mothballs. But the unsettling part? The painting above the bed, a portrait of a woman in white, her eyes dark pools of sorrow. He stared at it, heart pounding. Why did it feel like she was watching? It was past midnight when Mr. Milner awoke. A sound, soft, deliberate, had stirred him. His breath hung in the air, misting. The room was unnaturally cold. And then he heard it, a whisper, faint, female, coming from the wardrobe. Heart pounding, he turned his head slowly. The door of the wardrobe was slightly ajar. Then, as if summoned by his fear, she appeared, a woman draped in a white gown standing at the foot of his bed. Her head tilted unnaturally, her lips moving in a silent whisper, but her eyes were black voids, reflecting nothing but endless darkness. Milner's throat tightened. He wanted to move, but terror held him captive. And then she was gone. No slow fading, no lingering presence, just gone. The room returned to its deathly stillness, but the cold remained. And when Mr. Milner found the courage to move, he discovered something even worse. A single handprint, small, feminine, pressed into the frost-covered window pane. At breakfast, Mr. Milner barely touched his food. He overheard the staff whispering, "The Lady of Hope Valley, she walks again." He demanded answers, and when they told him, the truth chilled him to the bone. A woman decades ago, a tragic death, a soul never at rest, and those who saw her were never quite the same again. He never spoke of that night, but from then on he avoided mirrors after dark. He never slept with an open wardrobe, and every so often he swore he could still hear that whisper calling his name. In the quiet countryside, a family home stood isolated, shrouded in neglect and dark memories. The once vibrant garden had become a wild tangle of overgrown grass and brambles, encasing the house in a suffocating grip. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken dread, the air thick with the scent of decay and despair. Returning after a prolonged absence, Bobby was struck by the profound changes in his family. His mother, once a pillar of strength, now appeared hollow and aged beyond her years, her face etched with lines of worry and sorrow. His sister, Kira, had withered into a fragile semblance of her former self, her eyes vacant and haunted. The source of their torment lay in the basement, a place Bobby had hoped to forget. 3 years prior, they had confined their father there, a man who had transformed into something monstrous, both in life and death. Despite his demise, unsettling noises continued to emanate from below, a constant reminder of the horror that refused to release its grip on their lives. Summoning his courage, Bobby descended into the basement, each creaking step amplifying his dread. The air grew colder and more oppressive as he neared the bottom, the faint, grotesque sounds growing louder, echoing off the damp stone walls. In the dim light, Bobby saw his father, a grotesque figure, twisted and contorted, bearing wounds that defied natural explanation. Despite the decay, his eyes gleamed with a malevolent awareness, and his mouth moved, emitting guttural sounds that sent chills down Bobby's spine. Steeling himself, Bobby approached, gripping the weapon his mother had provided. he knew that to free his family from this living nightmare, he had to confront the abomination that had once been his father and end the torment that had plagued them for far too long. With a heavy heart and trembling hands, Bobby raised the weapon, ready to deliver the final blow. The basement was filled with a tense silence, broken only by the labored breathing of both son and monstrosity as the moment of reckoning loomed. In that chilling moment, Bobby understood that some wounds fester beyond healing, and some horrors persist beyond death, lurking in the shadows, waiting to consume those who dare to confront them. The house remained, an eternal witness to the family's ordeal, its walls absorbing the echoes of their suffering, standing as a testament to the darkness that can reside within, long after the source has been vanquished. And so, the tale of the family's torment serves as a grim reminder. Sometimes the most terrifying horrors are not those that come from outside, but those that emerge from within, refusing to die, haunting us in the shadows of our own homes. In the quiet town of Willowbrook, nestled among rolling hills and whispering woods, a woman named Sarah sought solace from a tumultuous past. Having endured a fractured childhood and a harrowing first marriage, she found comfort in the arms of Tim, a man whose kindness was a balm to her wounded soul. Together, they built a life filled with love and the laughter of their two daughters, Gina and Melanie. Yet, as the years unfolded, shadows from Sarah's past began to creep into her dreams. Night after night, she was haunted by the same nightmare. A faceless man clad in black, his gloved hands tightening around her throat, suffocating her screams. These nocturnal terrors left her drenched in sweat, her heart racing with unspoken fear. Initially, Sarah dismissed these visions as mere echoes of past traumas, but soon the boundaries between dream and reality began to blur. On sweltering summer days, amidst the bustling stalls of the local farmer's market, she would catch fleeting glimpses of him, the man in black. His presence was an anomaly, a dark silhouette in the blistering heat, vanishing as quickly as he appeared. One night, the nightmare took a sinister turn. In the throes of her dream, Sarah fought back, her nails clawing beneath the man's right eye, eliciting a guttural curse. He retaliated, sinking his teeth into her left shoulder, the pain searing and all too real. Awakening with a scream, she found Tim by her side, concern etched on his face. But it was his next words that sent a chill down her spine. "Baby, you're bleeding." The wound was undeniable, a deep bite mark on her shoulder, mirroring the assault from her dream. Desperate for understanding, Sarah confided in her best friend, Shauna, who suggested a day at the mall to distract from the mounting anxiety. Amidst the bustling shoppers and the comforting normalcy, Sarah felt a fleeting sense of relief, but the reprieve was short-lived. As they wandered past a store, Sarah's heart plummeted. There he was, emerging from the shadows of a Gothic boutique, his gaze locked onto hers. The scratch beneath his right eye was unmistakable, a scar from their nocturnal encounter. Panic surged as she pushed through the crowd, desperate to confront him, but he melted away, leaving only the echo of her pounding heart. The line between nightmare and reality had vanished. The man in black was no longer confined to the realm of dreams. He had crossed over, infiltrating her waking world. Determined to protect her family from this relentless specter, Sarah made a fateful decision, one that would blur the boundaries of love, sacrifice, and the supernatural. In the depths of night, as the household lay in tranquil slumber, Sarah prepared for the inevitable confrontation. With a heavy heart, She ensured her loved ones would remain undisturbed, administering a harmless dose of sleep aid to guarantee their rest. Then, embracing the darkness, she surrendered to sleep, awaiting the return of the man in black, ready to face the terror that had haunted her for so long. As the clock's hands inched towards midnight, the boundary between the seen and unseen blurred, and the man in black emerged from the shadows, his presence a chilling testament to the horrors that lurk just beyond the veil of reality.